Hey guys, tonight we are venturing into a deep, dark, and magical forest, a place of fairy tales and ancient trees. We are traveling to the Schwarzwald, the Black Forest of Germany, in a time when the days were measured by the slow swing of a pendulum. You can almost smell the sharp, clean scent of pine needles, the fragrance of seasoned wood, and hear the gentle, constant ticking of 100 clocks, all speaking at once. We are going to become an apprentice in a master clockmaker's workshop, a place where time itself is carefully and lovingly brought to life. Are you ready in your warm bed? I do hope you are feeling calm and settled. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always so wonderful to see where everyone is listening from, so feel free to share your city or country and the local time in the comments. It makes our quiet little community feel connected across the globe. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first sound you hear upon waking is the sound of time itself. It is not a single sound, but a gentle, complex, and comforting symphony. It is the soft, unsynchronized ticking and talking of dozens of clocks, a sound that rises from the workshop below and fills your small loft bedroom like a gentle wooden rain. You are Leo, and you are apprentice to the master clockmaker, Herr Gerhardt. This chorus of quiet, rhythmic heartbeats is the first sound you hear every morning, and the last sound you hear every night. You lie for a moment under your thick woolen blanket, listening. There is the slow, deep, resonant talk of the great regulator clock against the far wall, the master's masterpiece, the clock to which all others are set. Then there is the faster, lighter tick-tick-tick of the small bracket clocks on the shelves, and the almost silent, graceful swing of a dozen pendulums catching the first weak light of dawn. It is a soundscape that would drive another person mad, but to you, it is the most peaceful sound in the world. You climb down the steep wooden ladder from your loft into the workshop. The air here has its own unique perfume. It smells of sawdust, of pine and linden wood, of the faint, sweet scent of the special oil Herr Gerhardt uses to lubricate the gears, and of old, cold wood smoke from the iron stove. The early morning light streams in through the wide workshop windows, illuminating millions of tiny dust motes as they dance in the sunbeams. The entire room seems to glitter with this golden, floating dust. The workshop is a place of beautiful, orderly chaos. The walls are lined with clocks in all stages of creation. There are finished clocks, their carved wooden faces looking down at you with a serene wisdom. There are They're half-finished clock cases waiting for their movements. There are strings of pinecone-shaped weights hanging from hooks, and everywhere, on shelves and on the workbench, are the parts of a clock's soul. Wooden gears of all sizes, tiny pinions, carefully cut levers, and coiled metal springs. Herr Gerhardt is already at his workbench by the window. He is a small, old man with a fringe of white hair, spectacles perched on the end of his nose, and hands that are gnarled from a lifetime of work, but are as steady as the granite of the mountains outside. He He has a jeweler's loupe pressed to one eye and is silently examining a tiny wooden escape wheel, his concentration absolute. He does not seem to notice you have entered. Your first chores of the day are always the same. They are the humble, rhythmic tasks of an apprentice. You take a soft broom and begin to sweep the wooden floor. You gather up the fragrant shavings and sawdust from the previous day's work. Your movements slow and careful so as not to stir up too much dust. You then stoke the embers in the small, pot-bellied stove, adding a few pieces of dry kindling and a small log. The stove is not just for warmth in the cold blackforest winters. It is used for heating the special glue needed to assemble the clock cases. This is all part of the tradition of clockmaking in the Schwarzwald. It began here centuries ago as a winter occupation for the farming families who were snowed in for months on end. With their fields buried under deep snow, they turned to the other great resource the forest provided, wood. They used their skill with a carving knife, honed by generations of subsistence living, to create these beautiful, intricate machines entirely from the trees that grew outside their doors. It was a craft born of darkness, patience, and the need to keep busy hands from freezing. When your chores are done, you stand and wait. Herr Gerhardt finishes his inspection of the gear, places it down carefully with a pair of tweezers, and finally looks up at you. His eyes are pale blue and very kind. "Good morning, Leo," he says, his voice a soft, gentle rumble. "The floor is clean. The fire is started. Good today. We begin a new clock, a special one, but first, you must learn the wood." He leads you to a rack at the back of the workshop where long planks of different woods are stacked and seasoning. He runs his hand over a piece of pale, creamy white wood. "This is linden," he says. "Feel it. It is soft, the grain is even. It does not fight the knife. The linden tree has a gentle spirit. This is what we use for the fine carvings, the leaves, the birds, the deer. It holds the details beautifully." He then points to a darker, more rugged-looking piece of wood. "And this is oak, strong, stubborn. Its spirit is one of endurance. We use this for the frame of the case, the part that must bear the weight and last for 100 years. To Herr Gerhardt, wood is not just a material. Each tree has its own character, its own soul, and a good clockmaker must understand this to choose the right wood for the right part of the clock. Your gaze drifts to a magnificent, finished cuckoo clock hanging on the wall, its case a cascade of carved oak leaves, a stag's head at its crest. You have always been fascinated by the simple, clever magic of the cuckoo itself. Horologists and cultural historians of the future will debate the true origin of the cuckoo call mechanism, questioning whether it was an attempt to mimic a real bird's song with simple bellows and whistles, or a simplified, rustic version of the far more complex automata being made in the great cities. But to you, it is simply a miracle, the idea that a small, carved bird can live inside a wooden box and, with a series of levers and gears, spring out and announce the time with a cheerful call, is the very definition of magic. "Today, Leo," the master says, interrupting your thoughts, "we will not be working with the wood we have here. The wood for this next clock must be special. We must go into the forest to find it ourselves." He says it with a quiet gravity that makes your heart beat a little faster. You have only ever worked with the seasoned wood in the shop. The thought of going deep into the great, dark forest with the master to select a tree feels like a promotion and initiation into a deeper level of the craft. It means he believes you are ready to learn not just how to carve the wood, but how to listen to it, how to find its spirit where it lives. You nod, your eyes wide with excitement. Yes, Herr Gur prepares to take the new clock on a peddler's frame, ready for the long walk to sell it at Market Hart. Good, he says with a rare smile. Finish your breakfast, drink your milk. We have a long walk ahead of us. The forest has a gift for us today, and we must be ready to receive it. You go to the small table to eat your own simple breakfast of bread and milk, your mind buzzing with anticipation. The familiar. Gentle symphony of the ticking clocks surrounds you, but today it sounds different. It sounds like a quiet chorus of encouragement, 100 wooden hearts telling you that you are ready. You are ready to step out of the workshop and into the deep, green, magical heart of the forest where all these clocks are truly born. After a final check of the workshop, Herr Gerhardt nods, and the two of you step out into the crisp morning air. The village is quiet, nestled in its valley, a gentle plume of smoke rising from a neighbor's chimney. But you are not heading towards the village. You are turning your backs on it, heading directly into the vast, looming presence of the Schwarzwald, the Black Forest. It rises up around your village like a great, dark green ocean, and today you are going to journey into its depths. You carry the tools for your quest. Herr Gerhardt has the large two-man saw slung over his shoulder, its teeth sharp and hungry. You carry a smaller axe and a coil of thick rope. The weight of the tools feels important, a sign of the serious work to come. As you walk, the narrow path leads you quickly away from the sunlit meadows and into the cool, dim light beneath the forest canopy. The air immediately changes, becoming cooler, damper, smelling of pine needles, rich earth, and decaying leaves. The master does not walk in silence. The journey itself is a lesson. You see this path, Leo, he says, his voice a low rumble. This was not made for clockmakers. This was made by the kohler, the charcoal burners. They go deeper than anyone. He points to a patch of dark, bare earth far off the path. They build their great mounds there, and the smoke hangs in the trees for weeks. He teaches you to read the forest as a working landscape, a place of human industry as well as natural wonder. He shows you the clearings, now overgrown, where the glassmakers once had their fiery furnaces, consuming enormous amounts of wood to create the famous green glass of the forest. He points out the game trails used by hunters and the paths, like this one, used by the charcoal burners. The Black Forest is not an untouched wilderness. It is a complex, living tapestry of nature and human craft, all interwoven. You walk for over an hour, moving deeper and deeper into the forest. The trees become larger, more ancient. The forest floor becomes a thick, springy carpet of moss. The silence here is deeper, the air more still. This is the old forest, the part that the loggers and the charcoal burners rarely reach. Now, Herr Gerhardt says, stopping and looking around, the search begins. He is not looking for just any linden tree. He is searching for a specific one, a tree with the right age, the right health, and the right spirit for the special clock he has in mind. You follow him as he moves slowly through the ancient trees. You watch as he rejects one tree after another. This one is too young. That one has a slight curve in its trunk. Another has a patch of unhealthy-looking bark. His process is slow and intuitive. He lays a hand on the trunks as if feeling for a pulse. He squints up at the canopy, judging the health of the leaves. He even gets on his hands and knees to examine the ground at the base of the trees. He points to a cluster of pale, shelf-like mushrooms growing on the roots of one linden. "You see these, Leo?" he asks ethnobotanists and historians of the future. We'll debate the full extent of the symbiotic relationship between specific fungal networks and tree health, but Herr Gerhardt knows it in his bones. "This fungus," he explains, "tells me the tree is old and strong, but that its heartwood is beginning to soften. It will be good for carving, easy on the knife." Finally, after a long search, he finds it. It is a magnificent linden tree, tall and perfectly straight, its bark smooth and healthy, its leaves a vibrant green. It stands in a small, sun-dappled clearing of its own. It feels special. Herr Gerhardt approaches the tree with a sense of reverence. Before he even unpacks the saw, he places his palm flat against the trunk. He closes his eyes and stands there for a full minute in complete silence. You know what he is doing. He is asking permission. He is speaking, in his own quiet way, to the spirit of the tree, the Holzfräulein, the forest maiden that is said to live within each ancient tree. He is thanking it for its life, for its beauty, and for the gift it is about to give to his craft. It is a moment of deep, profound respect. When he opens his eyes, he nods, as if he has received an answer. "It is time," he says. The two of you set to work. Felling a tree of this size is hard, physical labor, but you do it with a quiet efficiency. You use the axe to clear the base of the tree and to cut a deep notch on the side where you want it to fall. Then you take up the grate. Two-man saw. You take one handle, and the master takes the other. You find a rhythm together, a steady, back and forth pulling motion. The sound of the saw's teeth biting into the pale wood is the only sound in the clearing. The air fills with the sweet, almost floral scent of fresh-cut linden wood. You work for a long time, your muscles beginning to ache, sweat beading on your forehead, despite the cool air. Finally, you hear a deep, groaning crack from within the tree. "Now!" Herr Gerhardt shouts. You both pull the saw free and step back quickly. The great linden tree hesitates for a moment, as if making a final decision. Then it begins to fall. It falls slowly, majestically, with a great rushing sigh of leaves, and lands on the soft forest floor with a deep, shuddering thump that you feel in the soles of your feet. The clearing is suddenly filled with sunlight. The silence that follows feels immense. You and the master stand for a moment, looking at the fallen giant. A sense of sadness and gratitude washes over you. You do not take the whole tree. That would be wasteful. You only need a section of the trunk, the straightest, most flawless part, for the clock case and its carvings. You and Herr Gerhardt work together to saw off a large, heavy log, about the length of a man. This log is far too green and heavy to carry back today. It will have to be left here to season, hidden carefully, for several years before its wood is stable enough to be used for clockmaking. It is a slow craft, one that requires immense foresight and patience. This, Herr Gerhardt says, patting the great green log, will be for a clock you make one day when you are a master. The words fill you with a quiet, glowing pride, but then you frown. But Herr Master, you ask, what wood will we use for the clock you want to build now? He smiles a rare, secretive smile. He leads you to a place deeper in the clearing, to a spot where a great, mossy boulder leans against a bank of earth. He has you help him roll away a smaller stone that was concealing a dark hollow beneath the boulder. And there, hidden away, protected from the rain and snow, is a long, perfectly cut piece of linden wood. It is pale, dry, and perfectly seasoned, its surface smooth and ready. I brought this piece from a tree we felled in this same clearing 5 years ago, he explains. I have been saving it, waiting for the right clock and the right apprentice. Today is the day. The two of you manage to drag the heavy, seasoned log from its hiding place. It is still a formidable weight, but manageable for 2 people. You tie your rope around it and begin the long, slow process of dragging it back home. The journey back is slow and arduous. You pull the heavy log over roots and rocks, through streams, and across clearings, but it is a deeply satisfying work. The sun is beginning to slant through the trees, and the forest is filled with the golden light of late afternoon. You do not talk much. You are focused on the task, on the rhythm of your pulling, on the weight of the precious wood behind you. You arrive back at the workshop, tired, sweaty, and triumphant, just as dusk is beginning to settle. You have brought the soul of the forest back with you. You place the beautiful pale log on 2 trestles in the center of the workshop. Tomorrow, the work of turning this raw, silent piece of wood into the intricate, singing heart of a clock will begin. The morning after your journey into the forest, the workshop feels different. The magnificent pale log of seasoned linden wood rests on its trestles in the center of the room, a silent, powerful presence. It is a piece of the deep forest brought into your small, man-made world, and it seems to fill the space with a quiet, living energy. After your morning routine of sweeping the floor and stoking the fire, Herr Gerhardt walks over to the log. He runs his hand along its smooth, pale surface, then picks up his sharpest saw. With a few swift, expert cuts, he saws a small, clean block from the very end of the log. The scent of the freshly cut linden wood, sweet and almost vanilla-like, fills the air. He brings the block to your small apprentice's workbench and places it before you. It is a perfect, creamy white, flawless piece of wood. There, Leo, he says, his voice soft but full of significance. Your work for the day, for the week, perhaps? He pauses, letting the weight of the moment settle. It is time for you to carve the cuckoo. Your heart gives a little flutter of nervous excitement. This is not just another practice exercise. This is for the special clock. The cuckoo is the clock's voice, its spirit, its moment of magic. To be entrusted with carving, it is a great honor, a sign that the master believes your skills are finally ready. You go to your tool roll, a piece of thick, soft leather that you unroll on your bench. Inside are your carving tools, each one nestled in its own pocket. You have a small collection of whittling knives with blades of different shapes and sizes, a set of tiny, curved gouges for scooping out hollows, and various chisels for fine detail work. These tools, made of fine German steel and fitted with smooth wooden handles you shaped yourself, are your most prized possessions. Beside your workbench is a small wooden box. You open the lid. Inside are your previous attempts at carving the cuckoo bird, a small, silent flock of your failures and near successes. It is a tradition for an apprentice to prove his skill by mastering a single, complex element before being allowed to work on the main clock case. This small bird, with its delicate shape and important role, is your test piece. You pick up one of your earlier attempts. The beak is slightly crooked. On another, the wing feathers are uneven. You have carved dozens of them today. You must carve the perfect one. You take the new clean block of linden wood. It feels warm and light in your hands. First, you take a piece of charcoal and sketch the rough side profile outline of the bird onto the wood. Then you select your main whittling knife. The work begins. The first stage is blocking out the shape. You make long, careful cuts, slicing away the excess wood, your knife whispering through the soft linden. The pale wood curls away from the blade in thin, fragrant ribbons. You are not yet carving a bird. You are simply removing everything that is not a bird, releasing the rough shape that is trapped inside the block. This part of the process is broad and confident, a conversation between your knife and the wood's grain. Once you have the basic blocky form, the real artistry begins. You switch to a smaller, more delicate knife. You begin to round the body, to define the shape of the head, to taper the tail. Your movements are slow, precise, and repetitive. It is a meditative process. The world outside the workshop disappears. The symphony of ticking clocks fades into a single, gentle, background hum. Your entire universe shrinks to the small piece of wood in your hand and the keen edge of your knife. The only sound is the soft, satisfying shh of the blade as it shaves off impossibly thin layers of wood. As you work, you think about the cuckoo itself. Ornithologists and art historians of the future will debate which specific species of cuckoo the famous blackforest clocks are modeled on. Is it the common cuckoo, the Cuculus canorus, that you hear calling from the forest in the springtime? Or is it a more idealized folk art bird, a creature of imagination that captures the spirit, rather than the exact appearance of a real cuckoo? You decide it is a little of both. You try to capture the sleek shape of the real bird, but also to imbue your carving with a sense of cheerful storybook character. Herr Gerhardt does not watch over your shoulder. He trusts you to work. He is at his own bench, beginning the long, incredibly precise process of cutting the great wooden gears for the clock's movement. But every hour or so, he will walk quietly over to your bench to inspect your progress. He'll pick up the small, half-formed bird and turn it over in his hands, his thumb feeling the curves you have made. "Softer here, on the breast," he might say, his voice a low murmur. "A cuckoo's chest is smooth and round," or "Remember the tail is a rudder. It must look light but strong."
Moscow,
His advice is always brief, always gentle, but it guides your hands, correcting a line here, suggesting a curve there. The most difficult part is the head and the beak. The details are so small, so fine. You switch to your smallest, sharpest blade, a tool so delicate it feels like you are drawing rather than carving. You carefully shape the gentle curve of the head. You carve the sockets for the eyes, which will later be dotted with black paint. You hold your breath as you carve the beak, the part that will open to let out the clock's song. It must be perfectly shaped, parted just enough to look alive. One slip of the knife, one tiny extra shaving of wood, and the bird's expression would be ruined. Finally, after a long, focused afternoon, the carving is done. The small wooden bird lies finished in the palm of your hand. It is, you realize with a surge of quiet pride, the best one you have ever made. The lines are clean, the shape is perfect. The linden wood is carved so smooth, it feels like polished stone. You have carved the feathers on the wings with such care that they look soft, as if they could actually flutter. You have captured the spirit of the linden wood that your master spoke of. You have coaxed it from its silent, woody form into the shape of a bird, a creature of song and life. You take the finished bird from your workbench and walk over to where Herr Gerhardt is working. You wait silently until he finishes the cut he is making on a large gear. He looks up, and you hold out your hand, offering him the small cuckoo. He takes it from you without a word. He holds it up to the light. He puts his jeweler's loupe to his eye and examines every tiny detail, the curve of the wing, the shape of the beak, the smoothness of the finish. The silence stretches on, and with every passing second, your anxiety grows. Then he lowers the bird and removes the loupe from his eye. He looks at you, and for the first time today, he gives you a full, genuine smile that crinkles the corners of his pale blue eyes. "Yes, Leo," he says, his voice soft with approval. He places the small wooden bird gently on a piece of clean velvet on his workbench. This one has a soul. This one will sing." The relief and pride that wash over you are so powerful, they almost make you dizzy. You have passed the test. You have created your masterpiece. This small, silent, perfect wooden bird, born from a block of linden wood you helped to carry from the deep forest, is now ready and waiting to become the living, singing heart of the new clock. Your master's words of praise are a warm glow that stays with you for the rest of the day. The small, perfect cuckoo bird now rests on its square of velvet, a silent testament to your growing skill. But your apprenticeship is about more than just carving. A clock's beauty is not just in its case, but in its heart, the intricate living machine that measures out the moments of the day. And it is to this heart that Herr Gerhardt now turns his attention. He beckons you from your bench over to his. "The bird is ready for its soul," he says, his voice a low murmur. "But first, we must build the body that will hold it." On his workbench, laid out in a neat, orderly progression on a clean piece of linen, is a beautiful and bewildering array of wooden gears, levers, and axles that he has been painstakingly crafting for weeks. They are the components of the clock's movement. At the center of the bench stands the clock's frame, a simple, sturdy skeleton made from the dark, strong oak you admire. It is a cage waiting for its mechanical animal. Today, you will not just watch, the master says. and your heart gives another excited leap. Today you will help. A clock's movement is a dance. Every part must know its step, and every part must move in harmony with its partner. You must learn the steps of the dance. He begins the lesson. He picks up the largest of the wooden gears. This is the great wheel, he explains. It is the strongest dancer. It takes its power from the falling weight, and it leads all the others. He shows you the precisely cut teeth, their shape a marvel of geometry. Horological historians and engineers of the future will debate the precise calculations used by these early masters to create their gear trains, using complex mathematics to determine the number of teeth needed for each wheel to accurately divide time. But for Herr Gerhardt, it is an intuitive science, a knowledge passed down through generations, a feeling for the right proportions that exists in his hands as much as in his head. He guides you as you help him place the great wheel's axle, its arbor, into the holes drilled in the oak frame. It slides in with a smooth, satisfying precision. Next, he takes up the second wheel and the first of the pinions. While the large gears are all made of seasoned hardwood like beech, the pinions, the small driven gears, are different. To reduce friction and wear, they are made of polished steel wire, bent into a lantern shape. This combination of wood and metal is a signature of blackforest clockmaking. Now, watch, he says, as he brings the second wheel into position, meshing its wooden teeth with the steel wires of the pinion. He turns the wheel slowly with his finger, and you watch, mesmerized. As the two parts engage, they turn together with a soft, dry, whispering sound. He has you feel the movement, the way the teeth should meet, with almost no friction, no jarring, just a smooth, rolling contact. As he fits the third and fourth wheels of the going train, the part of the clock that will eventually drive the hands, he shows you another of his secrets. He points with the tip of a small knife to a tiny, almost invisible scratch on the frame, and a corresponding scratch on the tooth of a gear. A witness mark, he explains. When I first assembled this train to test it, I made these marks. Now, I know that this exact tooth must meet this exact spot. The gears have already learned how to dance together. We must not force them to learn a new dance with a new partner. Every clock he makes is a unique individual, its parts worn in and married to each other in a way that can never be precisely replicated. He assembles the escapement, the most ingenious part of the clock. It is a clever anchor-shaped lever that rocks back and forth, catching and releasing a tooth on the final escape wheel with each swing of the pendulum. It is this mechanism that creates the familiar tick-tock sound, and it is this mechanism that translates the steady, turning power of the gear train into precise, measured beats of time. Then he gestures to another set of gears laid out on the linen cloth. "This is the striking train," he says. The going train is the clock's sensible mind, subtle mind. This is its loud, cheerful voice. He begins to assemble this second gear train in a separate section of the frame. It is a more complex and robust-looking mechanism designed not for precision, but for power. It must have the strength to lift the heavy hammers that will strike a bell or a coiled gong, and in this special clock, to operate the small bellows and levers that will bring your cuckoo to life. He turns to you. "Now your turn, Leo." He hands you one of the smaller wheels of the striking train. Place this one in its home. Your hands tremble slightly as you take the beautifully crafted wooden gear. You feel the smoothness of its teeth, the perfect balance of it in your palm. With the utmost concentration, you carefully guide its long, thin axle into the small, precise holes in the oak frame. It slides into place. You then gently position it so its teeth mesh with the previous gear. You turn the wheel with your finger and feel the satisfying, solid engagement of the gears. You have added a piece to the puzzle. You have learned a step in the dance. You and the master work together for the rest of the afternoon, a quiet, focused team. You hand him tools. You hold pieces in place while he secures them. He allows you to fit 2 more of the smaller, simpler gears into place. As you work, the beautiful logic of the machine reveals itself to you. It is a cascade of power, a river of motion flowing from the great wheel, dividing into 2 streams, one for time, one for sound, and ending in a series of perfectly controlled, delicate actions. It is a mechanical poem. Finally, as the afternoon light begins to fade, the work is done. The 2 gear trains, the going train and the striking train, are fully assembled within the sturdy oak frame. The clock's heart is built. It is a beautiful, intricate skeleton of wood and metal, a silent, 3-dimensional map of time. It is a machine at rest, a complex puzzle solved in waiting. You look at the completed movement, and then you look over at the small, carved cuckoo bird, still resting on its velvet cloth. You are beginning to understand. You have spent the week carving the bird, giving it a physical soul, and now you have spent the day building the intricate body that will give that soul its voice. All the separate parts of the magic are now ready. All that is left is to bring them together, to breathe life into the beautiful, silent machine. The next morning, the workshop is filled with a new kind of silence. It is not the quiet of inactivity, but the hushed, reverent quiet of a church before a great ceremony. The completed clockwork movement sits in its oak frame on the master's workbench, a beautiful, complex skeleton waiting for its body. Your perfectly carved cuckoo bird rests on its velvet cushion nearby, a soul waiting for its voice. Today, Herr Gerhardt declares, is the day the clock will be brought to life. First, it needs its home. From a corner of the workshop that is usually covered by a heavy linen cloth, Herr Gerhardt reveals the finished clock case. He has been working on it in the evenings after you have gone to bed, and seeing it now, whole and complete, makes you catch your breath. It is a masterpiece of carving, made from the very linden wood you helped bring from the forest. It is a cascade of oak leaves, acorns, and forest creatures, all flowing around the central clock face. And at the very top, just below the crest of the roof, is a small, perfect, little wooden door, the door for your cuckoo. With the utmost care, the 2 of you work together to mount the heavy oak frame containing the clockwork movement into the back of the linden wood case. It slides into place with a satisfying, perfect fit, the work of a master who has planned every measurement to the thickness of a hair. Now, it is time to give the clock its voice. This is the part of the process that seems most like pure magic. The master shows you the 2 small bellows, exquisitely crafted. From thin pieces of wood and soft, pliable leather, To each bellows is attached a tiny wooden organ pipe, one slightly longer than the other. He explains that these will create the cuckoo's call. When the striking train turns, it will lift and drop the bellows in quick succession. The first bellows will push air through its pipe, creating a high note, coo. The second will immediately follow, its longer pipe creating a lower note, coo. Bati. The two notes together, one after the other, create the iconic sound. He then turns his attention to your carving. He takes your small wooden bird and, with a delicate touch, mounts it onto a small, hinged platform that is connected by a thin wire to a lever in the striking train. He positions it perfectly behind the little wooden door. Now, when the striking train engages, it will not only pump the bellows, but it will also push the lever that makes your bird tip forward, popping out of its door just as its call rings out. You watch, fascinated, as the master connects the simple, ingenious mechanism. Your bird, which you carved with such patience, is now a part of the machine, an actor waiting for its cue. Next, the clock needs its heartbeat. Herr Gerhardt takes a long, thin pendulum rod and hooks its suspension spring to the escapement mechanism you helped to assemble. At the bottom of the rod is a heavy, disc-shaped bob made of polished brass. The clock's truth lives here, Leo, the master says, tapping the brass bob. Not in the gears, not in the weights, only in the length of this pendulum. The swing is everything. Physicists and horologists of the future will debate the subtle environmental factors that affect a pendulum's accuracy. Changes in temperature that make the rod expand or contract, shifts in humidity, even the pull of gravity itself. But a master like Herr Gerhardt knows how to account for them with a kind of intuitive genius. He makes a tiny adjustment, turning a small nut on the bottom of the bob by a fraction of a hair's breadth, tuning the clock to the specific atmosphere of this very room. Finally, the clock needs its power. It needs its life force. Herr Gerhardt gestures to a pair of heavy cast-iron objects lying on the floor. They are shaped like perfect, stylized pine cones, the Tannenzapfen that are the signature of a true blackforest clock. Their shape is a constant tribute to the forest that provides the wood for the clock's body. He hands you one of the long brass chains. Your honor, I think, Leo, he says. Your hands tremble slightly as you take the chain. You carefully thread it through the system of pulleys and gears of the great wheel. You then hook one of the heavy pine cone-shaped weights onto the end. You repeat the process for the striking train. The two weights now hang below the clock, heavy and full of potential energy. The moment has come. All the parts are in place. The body, the voice, the heartbeat, the power. Herr Gerhardt reaches out and gently, slowly, pulls on the loose end of the chains. The pinecone weights rise smoothly, their stored power now engaged with the gear train. Then, with a single gentle finger, he reaches in and gives the brass pendulum bob its very first push. He steps back. The two of you stand side by side in the now silent workshop. The pendulum swings. It swings back, and then you hear it. Tick. A pause, talk. A pause. Tick. Talk. It is the clock's first breath. A slow, steady, deeply resonant heartbeat, calmer and deeper than any of the other clocks in the room. It is alive. You watch the long, slender second hand begin its first graceful sweep around the clock's painted face. You look at the master, and he has his eyes closed, just listening, a look of profound peace on his face. He opens his eyes and points to the clock face. The hands show the time to be 5 minutes before the hour. The final test, the test of the clock's soul, is yet to come. You and the master wait, the 5-minute stretch into an eternity. The only sound in the entire world is the slow, steady, and perfect tick-tock of your new creation. The other clocks in the workshop seem to have fallen silent, holding their breath in deference. The minute hand crawls with an agonizing slowness towards the 12. You hold your own breath. You watch the gears of the striking train, the ones you helped to place. You see a small lever begin to lift. You hear a soft whir as the train is released. There is a tiny click. The little wooden door at the top of the clock, the one just above the clock face, springs open. And your bird, the cuckoo you carved from the heart of the linden wood, pops forward on its hinge, its small beak open. And then you hear the call, two perfect, clear, cheerful notes echo through the silent workshop. Coo, coo. The sound is so clear, so full of life, so much more beautiful than you could have possibly imagined. Your little bird, the one you feared would have a crooked beak or uneven feathers, has sung its first song. It bows its head twice, then retreats as the little door clicks shut behind it. The silence that follows is filled with a sense of wonder and accomplishment, so thick you can almost touch it. You look at Herr Gerhardt. There are tears in his eyes. He places a heavy, warm hand on your shoulder. Yes, Leo, he whispers, his voice thick with emotion. You were right. This one has a soul. You stand there for a long time, master and apprentice, listening to the steady, confident heartbeat of the clock you have built together. It is no longer just a collection of wood and metal. It is a thing of life, of beauty, and of song. It is perfect. For one perfect week, the new cuckoo clock lives in the workshop. It becomes the new heart of the room, its slow, steady, resonant tick-tock, the baseline against which all the other, smaller clocks measure themselves. Every hour, on the hour, you and Herr Gerhardt stop what you are doing. You wait and you listen. And every hour, the little wooden door springs open, your perfect little bird pops out, and its cheerful two-note call cuckoo echoes in the quiet, dusty air. Each time it sings, a quiet smile of satisfaction is shared between master and apprentice. During this week, Herr Gerhardt makes tiny, almost imperceptible adjustments, tweaking the length of the wire that controls the bellows, adding a minuscule drop of oil to a lever, ensuring the clock is not just good, but flawless. But you know this cannot last. Clocks are not made to stay in the workshop. They are made to go out into the world to measure the lives of others. And so the day comes when the master declares the clock is ready for its journey. He brings out the Uhrenträgergestell, the clock peddler's carrying frame. It is a large, sturdy, and surprisingly lightweight wooden frame, almost like a wide ladder, designed to be worn like a backpack. It is the iconic tool of the blackforest clock peddler, the men who would carry the craft of their small villages on their backs to every corner of Germany and even beyond into France, Italy, and England. Economic historians of the future will debate the full impact of these peddlers on the European economy, questioning whether they were simply sellers of folk art or key players who introduced the concept of affordable personal timekeeping to the masses. But you know only that this frame is what allows your master's art to find a home. The process of packing the clock is a slow and careful ritual, tinged with little sadness. You are saying goodbye to your creation. First, the two heavy pine-cone-shaped weights are unhooked, and you wrap each one carefully in a soft woolen cloth. Then, the master gently unhooks the long brass pendulum, the clock's heartbeat, and secures it to the back of the case. Finally, the clock itself must be wrapped. Herr Gerhardt brings out several old, clean, soft wool blankets. The two of you wrap the beautifully carved linden wood case as if swaddling a baby, making sure every delicate carved leaf and every corner is protected. You then work together to lift the heavy, blanket-wrapped clock and strap it securely onto the wooden carrying frame. The master adds two smaller, simpler clocks to the frame as well. These are Schild, or shield clocks, with brightly painted faces, less complex and quicker to sell. As you work, securing the straps, the master speaks to you about the life of a peddler. "When you are on the road, Leo," he says, his voice soft, "the world becomes a different place. You learn to read people as well as you read the grain of a piece of wood. You learn which towns have a good market, and which innkeepers will give you a fair price for a room." He tells you stories of his own first journeys as a young man, of getting caught in snowstorms, of selling a clock to a rich merchant, who wept when he heard its chime, of the simple pleasure of a hot meal at the end of a long day's walk. "My own master," he says, pausing to check a leather strap, "told me that an apprentice's education is not complete until he has sold the first clock he has built with his own hands. When he finally told me I was ready to make the journey alone, it was a prouder day than when I was made a master in the guild." He looks at you, his pale blue eyes full of a deep, quiet kindness. "Your time is coming, Leo. Perhaps next year you are learning the wood and the gears and the soul of the work. Soon you will be ready to learn the road." The promise hangs in the air, a vision of your own future. The thought is both terrifying and thrilling, to leave the safety of the workshop, to carry your own creation out into the wide world, to be the one to find it a home. With the packing complete, Herr Gerhardt prepares for his own departure. He puts on a heavy coat and a sturdy hat. He has a small satchel with some bread, cheese, and a map. He slowly, carefully, lifts the heavy wooden frame and shrugs the leather straps over his shoulders, settling the immense weight onto his back. He is transformed. He is no longer just the master of the workshop. He is one of the iconic Uhrenträger, a wandering merchant of time. "You will keep the workshop clean, Leo," he says, his voice firm but gentle. "You will keep the fire lit, and you will begin the carving for the next clock case. Do not be idle." "Yes, Herr Master," you reply, your own voice a little thick. He gives a final nod and turns, walking slowly out of the workshop door. You follow him and stand on the doorstep, watching as he makes his way down the familiar path that leads out of the village and towards the forest road. He is a slow, steady, and strangely noble figure, a walking tower of ticking clocks on his back, a piece of the black forest heading out to meet the world. You watch until he disappears around a bend in the road. You turn and go back inside the workshop. It feels immense now, and unnervingly quiet. The great regulator clock on the wall seems to tick more loudly in the absence of the new clock's voice. There is an empty space on the wall where your masterpiece hung for a week. Your masterpiece. It is gone now, on its way to a new life, a new home. A small pang of sadness touches you, the feeling of letting go. But the master's words echo in your mind. Your time is coming. You look at your own small apprentice's workbench. You think of the journey you have taken. The walk into the deep forest, the selection of the lindenwood, the patient, meditative carving of the small bird, the beautiful dance of the wooden gears, and the final magical moment of the first coo-coo. You have learned so much. You walk over to the trestles where the great, pale log of lindenwood you helped to harvest still rests. You run your hand over its smooth, cool surface. You go to your tool roll and take out your favorite whittling knife. The cycle begins again. But you are not the same apprentice who swept the floor yesterday morning. You are a clockmaker now, and you have a journey of your own to prepare for. The gentle, familiar symphony of the remaining clocks now fills the quiet workshop. Their ticking is no longer just the sound of time passing. It is the sound of patience, of craft, and of the future. Let the soft, rhythmic sound of those ticking clocks become the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. The story of this one clock is over, but the story of the craft, the story of the workshop, goes on. It is a story of quiet, dedicated work, of turning the gifts of the forest into things of beauty and purpose. Allow that feeling of deep, peaceful, and patient purpose to settle over you. Now, there are no more tasks to complete, no more journeys to begin tonight. There is only the calm, steady, comforting beat of time, a gentle wooden lullaby to guide you from the quiet of the Black Forest workshop into the deep and peaceful quiet of your own dreams.